Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the top 10 things that I would like to see in Persona 5 while keeping in mind that this game is going to have a brand new engine. I'm really excited to talk about this, so let's just get started. At number 10, we have the return of Nanoco. At the end of Persona 4, she was taken into the TV world and almost killed. This of course results in one of the game's possible endings. I would really like to see Nanoco in Persona 5 as an adult or even a teenager as a possible party member. I think it will be really fun, but what I will say is that I would like her to be a Persona 5 character that also happened to be in Persona 4, rather than a Persona 4 character that's also in Persona 5, if that makes any sense. Moving on to number 9, and I would like to see our opposite to the Velvet Room. An ongoing theme of the Persona series is that there's an opposite to everything. For every positive, there's a negative. For every up, there's a down. So it would make sense that there's an opposite to the Velvet Room. Now what I will say is that I don't think that this Velvet Room could really be evil, because the Velvet Room itself isn't good or evil, it just is. So maybe this Velvet Room will offer a different way of getting Persona. Maybe like you have to extract Persona from items and then fight that Persona before it will join you, as opposed to just fusing Persona. Moving on to number 8, and I would like to see a good and evil system. By this I mean, maybe through the game there's a spectrum of choices that affect your character's alignment. I think this could be a really fun thing to explore, like just how evil can a high school student get? This being said, I wouldn't like this engine to make the game stray too far from its original theme, but I do think it could be a fun little thing to add into the game. Swiftly moving on to number 7, and we have player customization. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about changing your character's base look, because the base look of all the protagonists have been relatively iconic, so it would make sense to do that again. But what I do mean is maybe you can change a character's clothes outside of the dungeons. I just think this would be a really fun aesthetic thing, and it would make a lot of sense. Because speaking as a person that went to a school where you had to wear a school uniform, when you got in from school, you changed out of your uniform, because that thing's uncomfortable. Now we move on to number 6, where I say I would like this game to make people realize that Persona 4 was actually a really light-hearted game. What I mean by this is that Persona 5 is supposed to be relatively dark, and I see people say all the time, well, Persona 4 was actually quite dark if you think about it, and they don't really appreciate the light that was in Persona 4. An object that people state all the time is that in Persona 4 there were bodies hanging upside down off of a telephone pole. While the idea of this is definitely very dark, and that's just undeniable, the way Persona 4 tackled this is that they did it in a relatively light way. I'm not saying the way they did it was bad, but what I am saying is that if they did it in a dark way, we would have been able to see that person's face, we would have been able to see the terror in their face before they died, probably bloodshot eyes, crazy frazzled hair, and their skin would probably be really pale. And it would be terrifying to see, where the bodies hanging upside down on the telephone poles in Persona 4, they weren't that scary. But I do want to emphasize that I don't think what Persona 4 did was bad, I'm just saying it wasn't dark. What they did fit in perfectly with the aesthetic of Persona 4, it just wasn't dark, and just because something isn't dark doesn't make it bad. And a lot of people don't realize this. Light things are good too, and appreciate the light with the dark, okay? That is just one thing that people need to get their heads around. Light can be good and dark can be good, and it's finding the balance between the two that is perfection. Halfway through and we're on number 5, and I would like to see exploration of the Velvet Room's world. The Velvet Room is definitely a key anchoring factor in the Persona series by this point, but just how big is it? I definitely would like to see exploration of the Velvet Room, the limits to its power, the weakest power it has, or even if it has any power on its own at all. Now we're at number 4, and we have homosexual relationships. So I could go on forever about why this would be such a great thing for society to see homosexual relationships in video games, especially a Japanese video game. All of you probably know that by now. So I'm just gonna get straight on to why this fits in perfectly with the theme of the game. Homosexuals in Japan generally keep their sexuality to themselves. I'm speaking out of word from friends here. Most of their family and friends don't know that they are homosexual just because there's such a high pressure to conform in Japan that the only time that other people would really find out they're homosexual is once they're in a long-term relationship. So you could say that homosexuals in Japan are slaves to society's standards and they need emancipation. See how that links up really well? Now we're on to the top 3, and I want to see a new battle system. Now I'm not talking a whole revamp of the old battle system, but I've got this idea, so hear me out. Maybe if you're hit from behind, you have like a hack and slash type of battle to do. That would really give the idea of a surprise attack, because if you are attacked from behind, you're going to hack and slash. You're not going to do this turn-based strategic thing. You're going to panic. And then maybe if you're hit from the front or the sides, that's when you do the turn-based strategic battle. Now we're on to number 2, and I would like to see a much bigger world map. I get it, Persona games have to be in just a city because it was only really the city that was affected, or just a town because it was only really that town that was affected, but now I want to see something bigger. If we look at games like Final Fantasy IX, you really do see how the game grows and grows and grows in on itself until it's just this grand worldwide adventure. And I think a Persona game could really pull that off. Like, what if they had an engine where you go through one TV in the real world and then you find a TV somewhere else in the shadow world, and this lets you open up a new location where the story advances in on itself. Okay, it really does depend on you to find the locations then, but then that's maybe where the day-by-day system would come in. I don't know, I do think it will be a bit of a risk because there is high potential for them to do it wrong, but if they did it right, it would definitely be really fun, and I don't think any Persona fan could deny that. Finally, we're on to number 1, and this is definitely the most important thing, and I think every Persona fan will agree with it. Just give us a fun game. We're all looking forward to Persona Q, and Persona 4 Dancing All Night looks fun, and then there's that new Arena game. But give us another Persona game finally. I played through Arena, did all the storylines, and I haven't touched it since. Persona 3 and Persona 4 are my crack. If I'm upset, I play Persona 3 or Persona 4. If I'm happy, I play Persona 3 and Persona 4. They're games that are always there for me. They are almost virtual friends for me. And I think that's the feeling that every Persona fan has. The Persona fans are all growing up and we need something new. And I think that's what Persona 5 will bring. And if it's great, and if they do it right, we're not going to complain about anything. We're going to say, Persona 5 was a great game. And if we can say Persona 5 was a great game, that's when we will know that they've done it right. It's super effective! Okay guys, that is it for today. Leave a comment down below telling me your top 10 things that you would like to see in Persona 5. And also don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. My name is Faust, this has been a top 10, and it is super effective.